Good morning. How are ya? I hope you're hungry because we're making breakfast today. A whole bunch of different breakfast recipes. I know breakfast can get so boring, especially you get in a breakfast, talk about a recipe rut. I think we all get into a breakfast rut where it's like the same old, toast and cereal, maybe a bagel every once in a while. So, why not do something special? And you don't just have to do it on the weekends. Some of my breakfast recipes are so great because you can make them the night before and then pop them in the oven, and everyone's busy in the morning and headed off to work and school, and you put one of these in the oven, one of these breakfast casseroles. It smells so great, and everyone's like, "What's for breakfast this morning?" And you're like, "Well, we're going to have a Denver omelet casserole." And then all of a sudden everybody perks up, just to send everybody in the family off with something a little different than the usual just makes, a great start to the morning, don't you think? And I love to do a nice breakfast when company's coming, and I like to do a breakfast where I'm not in the kitchen the whole time. So I've just, me, I love a good casserole. So I've got a lot of breakfast casseroles up my sleeve, and we're going to do a really fun one today. And some different recipes too this morning. We're actually going to go out for breakfast, and we're going to make fried oatmeal, which I'm really excited about. Never really heard of it. Well, we're going to make it today. So one of my dad's favorite things to have for breakfast, he always ordered, when we went out for breakfast, a Denver omelet. I always had to have this Denver. So who wants to be sitting there making omelets, for everybody in your family? Up at the cottage, we always do pancakes. We do a lot of pancakes. And I'm in there flipping pancakes, it seems like, for hours. So I thought, okay, how can we take my dad's favorite, a Denver, and turn it into a casserole? Well, here you go. It's really easy, and this is one of those where, let's say you didn't think to make it ahead of time. So that happens sometimes. You have a crazy busy day, and it's like, oh, shoot, didn't do the make-ahead breakfast casserole. This casserole works either way. So if you want to get it over with the night before and park it in the fridge and keep it there, overnight and then bake it off in the oven, that's just fine. But you don't have to. You can also just whip it up, an hour before company's coming over, and it'll be great either way. So it's kind of a twofer. All right, enough talk. Let's get to it because we've got a jam-packed show full of a whole bunch of different new breakfast recipes. First, though, I've got to take a sip of coffee. Need that coffee to get me going. All right, so what's in a Denver? Well, Denver it's got onion, it's got peppers, it's got tomatoes, cheese, and ham. So we're going to take all that stuff and throw it into this breakfast casserole. So I'm going to start out just sauteing a little bit of onion. I've got one small onion that I've diced up, finely diced up. And that is key. We don't want, it's not like we're making a soup or a stew. So all of our veggies, we want a nice fine dice to them so that there are just little pieces in here. So I'm going to get that onion going. And by the way, if you have any fun, wonderful breakfast recipes, I need to know about them. Don't keep them a secret. The burner's taking its good old time again today, Deb. It needs some coffee. The stovetop. Oh, is that what it was? It was up late. Got it. Not me. I conked out. Okay. So I just want to get that softened up a little bit, some onion and some bell pepper. Again, I've got one green bell pepper that I diced up fine, and then I thought this would just be fun, just for some color. One red bell pepper. So this breakfast casserole is going to have a lot of flavor. It's going to be like a Denver. So I just want that to hang out here and soften up a little bit, just for a few minutes. Now I'm going to get to my casserole dish. I've got a nice pretty casserole dish, and I want to put some melted butter in the bottom of it to give those hash brown potatoes some nice flavor. So got a few tablespoons of butter that I'm just going to melt in the microwave. And instead of a lot of my breakfast casseroles, I'll spray them with cooking spray so they don't stick. Well, butter is going to be kind of the thing to not make it stick, and it's also going to give these potatoes that we're going to add to this casserole, because we're not going to fry the potatoes, it's going to give them some great flavor. So I just want to melt that butter just for a few seconds. Perfect. and get it into the bottom of my casserole dish. This makes a nice big casserole, a 9 by 13. I'm just going to kind of move it around here, completely cover it. And then I'm going to get a bag of frozen Southern style, which are the little cubes, hash brown potatoes. This is a 32-ounce bag, and get it right in there. So this breakfast casserole is going to have a little bit of everything, and the potatoes are really going to make it nice and filling. You don't need to totally thaw these potatoes, just kind of partially thaw them. And I always try and keep a bag or two of these in the pantry. I'm just going to break up some of those big chunks because there's so much you can do. If you're making, soups or stews, it's kind of a great way to cheat is just throw in some frozen hash brown potatoes, especially the cube kind, and it saves you from peeling those potatoes and dicing up the potatoes, and I'm always looking for ways to do that. So that's a great thing to have on hand. And then let's say you're just making some omelets, or I make breakfast burritos a lot, and you want to throw some potatoes in them, cup or so of the frozen hash brown potatoes, then just reseal that bag. It really works nicely. Okay, so my veggies are starting to soften up just a little bit. I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm going to start scrambling those eggs. I'm also going to dice up some ham. Now, I just went to the deli. On Sundays is a great day to get ham. I'm always packing the kids' lunches. And so on Sundays, I like to, when they're, shaving it warm, the pit ham, and then sometimes you'll get free rolls. I know they do that at Festival Foods on Sundays, is I'll buy a little, ham for the week for the sandwiches, and then use some of that ham and make this casserole on a Sunday morning. It's a great way to, start out the week. Sunday is for sure a big breakfast day in my house. We may not do it very often during the week, but Sunday's our day to kind of, read the paper, hang out, and do breakfast. Bob and Ireland are really into breakfast, so that's a nice day. And the leftovers from this casserole are really great to pack for lunch. So I've just got some extra deli ham, about a ½ pound of it, and I'm just going to roll it up a little bit and give it a nice dice. Doesn't have to be perfect at all, just... If you have leftover ham, this is a great way to use that. Okay, our vegetables are looking great. Just starting to soften up a little bit. And remember, they're going to bake again in the oven, so we don't need to totally cook them through. So I'm going to do those on top of the potatoes. You know what I was thinking after I put this recipe together, that if you wanted to save time and, really throw this together quickly, just use the O'Brien potatoes, which already have the onion and the peppers right in them. And then you don't even have to, takes care of that step. You don't even have to saute them, the veggies. It's all right in those potatoes. Okay, now I'm going to get some tomato. We've got 2 to 3 diced seeded tomatoes that are also going to go right on top with our onions and our peppers. I love tomato and egg together. I really do. If you ever go to Europe, or if you've gone on a cruise, a lot of times you'll notice there's a lot of Europeans who cruise, and you'll notice they usually serve even scrambled eggs with a slice or 2 of tomato. That's a very European thing. So just going to throw a little seasoning on top of those tomatoes. Again, this is my salt and pepper mixture. Makes life easy. Okay, I'm going to get that ham on top here. Just kind of scatter that around. So you can see where we're going. This makes a nice big casserole. And now I got to get to work on my eggs. Recipe calls for 10 eggs. Get rid of my mess here. So I'm just going to whisk those up. Now let's say you don't like some of the ingredients that I've thrown in here. Leave them out. Not a big deal, but you get the idea of the method. The frozen hash brown, butter down on your pan, frozen hash brown potatoes, and then any veggies or no veggies. And, then your breakfast meat, ham, it could be sausage, could be bacon, eggs. I'm going to throw a little bit of milk in with these eggs. And then, of course, we got to have our cheese. I don't think I've ever met a casserole of mine that didn't have cheese in it. especially the breakfast ones. Well, French toast casseroles. Okay. Stand corrected there. So I just want to beat up my eggs. A couple tablespoons of milk or water, 2 to 3, just to make that nice and creamy. And this is going to go down right over the top. Now, make sure and allow plenty of time. This is a great big casserole, and we've got lots of eggs here. This is going to take a good hour or more to bake. So, keep that in mind. These egg bakes really take their good old time in the oven. And no one wants to be sitting there, I'm starving, when's breakfast? And it's got a whole nother half hour, 45 minutes to cook. So keep that in mind for sure. All right, now we've got some shredded cheddar cheese, about 3 cups, right over the top. Or 4 cups. Just depends on how cheesy you like it. And then a little bit of crunch on this is fun. I'm always thinking when I'm doing my casseroles, cheesy, a little crunch, what's going to kind of take them over the top. Well, this is, we're doing a breakfast thing. One of my favorite crunchies to add to casseroles, I do croutons, I do buttered breadcrumbs, I even do, I've got a couple casseroles that do, tortilla chips or potato chips on top just for that crunch. But how about some cornflakes? So basically the recipe calls for 1 cup of crushed cornflakes, which is about 2 cups of just regular cornflakes. But when you get to the bottom of the cornflakes box, my kids don't do the bottom. Once they get down there, they don't like that. So, take those little crumbs when you get down to the bottom, put them in a little baggie, and next time you're doing a breakfast casserole or even a dinner casserole, they're really nice for a nice little crunch on top. So just smash them up a little bit. Get them down over the top of this casserole. This needs to go into, first of all, we're going to cover it loosely with foil. And then it needs to go into a preheated 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes covered. And then we're going to uncover that foil and bake it for another 10 to 15 minutes. I just want to get that evenly, that little crunch everybody's going to love. Everyone's going to be asking for this recipe. They really are. It's a nice big casserole, serves a crowd. And like I say, you may even have some leftovers, and that's a good thing. Bob loves those leftover egg bakes packed in his lunch. Okay, so here we go. We uncovered it again the last 15 minutes or so before baking. And then it's always a good idea. I know everyone's starving and you want to dig right in. That's why you want to bake this plenty ahead of time. Before I cut into this, you need to let these breakfast casseroles rest for about 10 minutes. Don't worry, they'll still be nice and warm, but it's kind of like the same idea of lasagna. It's, needs to just cool just a little bit, and then we're going to slice it into squares. What would I serve it with? Well, you know me, I'm a big believer and you can't do it all. So I pick up some wonderful muffins and maybe a fresh fruit salad from the grocery store, and there you go. Rock star. Mom's a rock star. Once again, love that. Recipes on our website. You can also pick it up at any Festival Foods. It's my Denver omelet casserole, and it is good.